A shadow over the Middle East, the Iranian nuclear ambitions. This shadow has loomed large for years, casting uncertainty and tension across the region. The arid plains of Iran, home to ancient civilizations and a proud people, now bear the weight of a global anxiety. These lands, rich in history and culture, are now at the center of a modern geopolitical struggle. At the heart of this unease lies a question that has haunted the international community for decades. Will Iran develop nuclear weapons? This question is not just about technology but about trust, power, and the future of international relations. The specter of a nuclear-armed Iran, a prospect with far-reaching consequences, hangs heavy over the already volatile Middle East. The potential for a nuclear arms race in the region is a chilling thought for many. The Islamic Republic's nuclear program, shrouded in secrecy and dogged by controversy, has been a source of constant friction with the West, particularly the United States. This friction has led to sanctions, diplomatic standoffs, and even threats of military action. The US and its allies fear that Iran's pursuit of nuclear technology masks a clandestine ambition to build a bomb. This fear is rooted in the potential for a shift in the balance of power in the region, and the threat it poses to global security. Iran, however, maintains that its nuclear program is purely for peaceful purposes, intended to meet its energy needs and advance its scientific progress. Iranian officials argue that they have the right to develop nuclear technology for civilian use, just like any other nation. The world watches with bated breath, caught in a high-stakes game of geopolitical chess. Every move, every statement, every negotiation is scrutinized for its potential impact on the delicate balance of power. The decisions made in Washington, Tehran, and other world capitals will determine whether the shadow of nuclear proliferation will deepen or if a peaceful resolution can be found. The stakes are not just regional but global, affecting international peace and security. The stakes have never been higher. The world stands at a crossroads with the potential for either a new era of cooperation or a descent into further conflict. The outcome of this situation will shape the future for generations to come. As history has shown, the path to peace is fraught with challenges, but it is a path worth pursuing. The international community must work together to ensure that the specter of nuclear conflict does not become a reality. The hope is that through diplomacy, dialogue, and mutual understanding, a peaceful resolution can be achieved. The future of the Middle East, and indeed the world, depends on it. In the end, the Iranian nuclear ambitions are not just about weapons or power but about the kind of world we want to live in. A world where peace and cooperation prevail over conflict and mistrust. The journey ahead is uncertain, but with determination and a commitment to peace, a brighter future is possible. The world watches, waits, and hopes for a resolution that will bring lasting peace to the region and beyond. Setting the stage, the JCPOA and a glimmer of hope. After years of tense negotiations, a ray of hope pierced the clouds of uncertainty in 2015. The world watched with bated breath as diplomats from various nations came together to forge a path towards peace and stability. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, commonly known as the Iran nuclear deal, was signed by Iran and the P5+1 China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom, the United States, plus Germany. This historic accord was the result of painstaking diplomacy and countless hours of negotiation. This landmark agreement promised to curb Iran's nuclear ambitions in exchange for sanctions relief. It was a delicate balance of give and take, aimed at ensuring a safer world. The JCPOA placed strict limitations on Iran's nuclear program. These measures were not just symbolic, they were concrete steps designed to prevent the proliferation of nuclear weapons. It restricted uranium enrichment levels, ensuring that Iran could not easily divert its nuclear program towards weaponization. Limited the number of centrifuges, which are essential for enriching uranium to weapons-grade levels, and imposed a cap on the amount of enriched uranium Iran could stockpile. This cap was a critical component, as it directly limited the material available for potential weapon development. These restrictions were designed to significantly extend the time it would take Iran to produce enough fissile material for a nuclear weapon, effectively closing off its pathways to a bomb. The agreement included rigorous monitoring and verification mechanisms to ensure compliance. In return, the international community lifted crippling economic sanctions that had stifled Iran's economy for years. This sanctions relief was a lifeline for the Iranian people, opening the door to economic recovery and growth. The deal was hailed by many as a triumph of diplomacy, a testament to the power of dialogue and compromise in resolving even the most intractable of conflicts. It was a moment of collective achievement where the world came together to address a common threat. For a brief moment, the prospect of a nuclear-armed Iran seemed to recede, replaced by a cautious optimism. The JCPOA was not just an agreement, it was a symbol of what could be achieved when nations chose cooperation over confrontation. The journey to the JCPOA was fraught with challenges. Years of mistrust and hostility had to be overcome. The negotiators had to navigate a complex web of political, technical, and security issues, yet they persevered, driven by the shared goal of preventing nuclear proliferation. The JCPOA drew on lessons from past nuclear agreements, incorporating stringent verification measures to build confidence among the parties. It was a forward-looking agreement, designed to adapt to changing circumstances and ensure long-term compliance. Beyond its immediate impact, the JCPOA also opened the door for Iran to pursue peaceful nuclear activities under strict international oversight. This was a crucial aspect, as it allowed Iran to benefit from nuclear technology for energy and medical purposes, while ensuring that such activities remained peaceful. The agreement also set a precedent for future diplomatic efforts. It demonstrated that even the most contentious issues could be addressed through sustained dialogue and mutual respect. The JCPOA became a reference point for other non-proliferation efforts around the world. As we reflect on the JCPOA, it is important to remember the spirit of cooperation that made it possible. While challenges remain, the agreement stands as a testament to what can be achieved when nations come together with a shared vision for peace and security. The JCPOA and the glimmer of hope it brought remind us that diplomacy is not just about agreements on paper, but about building a better future for all. It is a continuous process, requiring commitment, trust, and the willingness to engage in meaningful dialogue. As we look to the future, let us carry forward the lessons of the JCPOA, striving for a world where dialogue prevails over discord and hope triumphs over fear. Trump's gambit withdrawal from the JCPOA and the return of sanctions. The fragile hope ushered in by the JCPOA proved short-lived. In 2018, U.S. President Donald Trump, a staunch critic of the deal, announced the United States' unilateral withdrawal from the agreement. Trump, branding the JCPOA as the worst deal ever negotiated, argued that it did not go far enough in curtailing Iran's nuclear ambitions and ballistic missile program. Trump's decision sent shockwaves through the international community. European allies, who had been instrumental in negotiating the JCPOA, expressed their deep disappointment and urged the U.S. to reconsider. They argued that the deal was working, as evidenced by the International Atomic Energy Agency's repeated confirmations that Iran was complying with its commitments. Undeterred, the Trump administration reimposed harsh economic sanctions on Iran, targeting its oil exports, financial institutions, and key industries. The Maximum Pressure Campaign, as it came to be known, aimed to cripple Iran's economy and force it back to the negotiating table to extract further concessions. Iran's response, a gradual escalation of nuclear activities. This was not an abrupt decision but a carefully calculated move, reflecting the complex geopolitical landscape and the pressures faced by the Iranian government. The reinstatement of U.S. sanctions dealt a severe blow to the Iranian economy. These sanctions targeted key sectors including oil exports, banking, and shipping, effectively isolating Iran from the global financial system. The Iranian rial plummeted in value, inflation soared, and ordinary Iranians bore the brunt of the economic hardship. The cost of living skyrocketed, making everyday necessities unaffordable for many. The Trump administration's actions, while intended to pressure Iran, also fueled anti-American sentiment and strengthened the hand of hardliners within the Iranian government. These hardliners argued that the U.S. could not be trusted and that Iran needed to assert its independence more forcefully. In response to the U.S. withdrawal from the JCPOA and the reimposition of sanctions, Iran adopted a calculated strategy of gradual escalation. This strategy was designed to demonstrate Iran's capabilities and resolve without crossing a threshold that might provoke a military response. Tehran announced that it would begin exceeding the limits on uranium enrichment and heavy water stockpiles set by the JCPOA. This move was intended to signal to the international community that Iran would not passively accept economic strangulation. Iran also restricted access to its nuclear facilities for IAEA inspectors, raising concerns about the transparency of its nuclear program. This restriction was a significant step as it challenged the international oversight mechanisms designed to prevent nuclear proliferation. Iran's actions were widely seen as a calibrated attempt to pressure the remaining parties to the JCPOA: China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom and Germany to provide economic relief and salvage the deal. These countries were caught in a difficult position, balancing their commitments to the JCPOA with the reality of U.S. economic power. Tehran argued that it was entitled to take these steps under the deal's dispute resolution mechanism, as the U.S. was no longer fulfilling its obligations. This legalistic argument was part of Iran's broader strategy to maintain a semblance of legitimacy while escalating its nuclear activities. The development of advanced centrifuges and other nuclear technologies continued, showcasing Iran's technical prowess and its determination to advance its nuclear program despite international opposition. Meanwhile, the Iranian population faced increasing economic struggles. Protests erupted in various cities, with citizens demanding better living conditions and an end to the economic hardships exacerbated by the sanctions. Diplomatic efforts to resolve the crisis continued, with various international actors attempting to mediate and find a path forward. The UN Security Council held numerous sessions to address the escalating tensions and seek a peaceful resolution. Within Iran, leaders engaged in strategic planning, weighing the risks and benefits of their actions. The military presence was bolstered, and contingency plans were developed in case of further escalation. The global reaction was mixed, with some countries condemning Iran's actions and others calling for a more balanced approach that addressed the underlying issues. News headlines around the world reflected the growing concern over the potential for conflict. Despite the challenges, the resilience of the Iranian people remained evident. Cultural sites continued to thrive, and daily life went on, albeit under the shadow of economic and political uncertainty. The future remained uncertain, but there was hope that through international cooperation and dialogue, a resolution could be found. The stakes were high, and the world watched closely as the situation unfolded.